Okay, here we go. It is Thursday, and it is time for another episode of Chiropractic is Sexy. I am Dr. Paula Ruffin.
I'm Dr. Erica Peabody, and excited to be here per the usual and bring the greatest stories right off the adjusting table. I know we're talking about kids today, so we're starting
We got two hot docs here, and
hot
we're ready
docs.
to rock and roll.
Thank goodness we didn't call it that.
I know.
So for those of you,
I think both of us have been wanting to talk about kids for a long time, and I recently had a new patient who had said to me, we were talking about his kid, and he was talking about his kid has ADD, and he said, well, he doesn't need chiropractic because he doesn't have back pain. And so I think that this is the time, like, we really have an opportunity to dispel some myths and why people bring their kids to the chiropractor, and what does that look like? And especially with babies, and people are like, what? They think that an adjustment that they see is the same thing that you would do for a 1-day-old infant. And it's just not. So we're going to talk about some different myths and misconceptions today around kids and chiropractic, because there's such an opportunity in chiropractic to change the trajectory of children's lives when there's so many anecdotal stories, but also there's a lot of data behind what we do and why we do it. So,
I think it's awesome to bring the actual evidence. And also I think that, like, right off of our tables is really our specialty. And I actually just finished with my favorite family. In fact, they make organic tallow.
Wow.
And brought me lavender scented organic tallow, but it's a mom and 4 kids just left here. It even has like lavender, I don't know, the seeds on it, or the lavender seeds on the top. I just put it all over my hands because they're relatively dry. But so the mom that just left, her daughter, okay, I'm gonna draw this kid up for you. She's 3.5. She has red curly Q hair. It's about this long, so it's everywhere. She's got overalls on today, matched with her brother. And she says to Lisa at the front desk, she said, my daughter finds absolutely any excuse to try and get into your office. She'll stub her toe and say, I want to go see Dr. Erica. She'll do, like, literally, she'll like trip and, kind of whatever out in the yard, and she wants to come and see me. This little kid, though, I think she's going to be a chiropractor. She just, like, you can just almost see it's like in a past life of hers that she has this recognition here, and she stands waist high on me and she gives me a hug, and she just did this. So that's why I'm like, it's so fresh. She gives me a hug, like right at my waist level. And I'm like, it's such an honor to be their chiropractor, to be the chiropractor for the kids in the entire area and the pregnant moms and the infants. But it's so dreamy, you guys, to be able to change, like Dr. Paula said, the trajectory of this children's lives, like, completely. Fortunately, I was adjusted since I was 2. I have aunts and uncles who are chiropractors. And when my mom's favorite sister was going through chiropractic college, my mom was home having kids. And well, she wasn't home. She was a nurse, but she was having children. And so she got us adjusted right from the start. And I feel so fortunate. We used to argue who was getting on the table first. All 4 of us would line up along the wall and we would have a big argument. So yeah, it's just amazing what we can do.
Again, the misconception that your kid has to be in pain to come to the chiropractor is completely false. And that most people end up hearing about bringing their kids to a chiropractor for other things through stories of another parent that has brought their child, even from torticollis, which is your head and neck being locked in a position after birth. And I want to unpack that a little bit. But also things like earaches super common in babies, and that, why do chiropractors have so much success with babies and earaches? And we'll get into that too. But then it just starts going up from there. They have headaches, they have digestive issues, these going up into the teenage years, they have more anxiety and depression than they ever have, and sleep disorders. And there's so much neurological damage coming in, or let's say neurological input, creating neurological, I'll say dysfunction, not damage, but just really dysregulating our young kids. And so if you just think of, well, let's start at birth and work our way up from there. And birth is a seriously traumatic injury, and that you are taking a human and squeezing it through the body part of another human. And in order to get that baby, and let's just say the baby's going to be born just regularly head down, head first, the doctor actually has to pull and stretch the shoulder and twist and turn the baby's head and neck in order to sort of, and babies come out all curled in like this. So they're designed to be compact, and they're pretty flexible. But when you start adding that extra stress in areas that are not ready to be stretched, then that's when we start to see the spinal bones will move out of place, move out of alignment, and start to affect neurologically. So then when baby's born, maybe they don't latch, maybe they have reflux, they might not be sleeping properly. They could have what am I thinking when they're bloated all the time?
Colic. Colic, but you see,
colic.
You had said that the doctor has to do that. No, the doctors choose to do that, and the body is plenty capable. I see a lot of women and Dr. Paula too, women that choose midwives over the medicalization of labor and delivery. So, but yes, they do. They don't have to twist, but they do end up doing that. They do end up wanting to keep babes on their clock, but also just the whole birthing, no matter which direction, however babe came out, I wouldn't call it a traumatic injury, but it's a lot. It's a very intense situation that the babe has gone through, and they will get locked in positions that are not suitable for just relaxation. So I always talk about the babies, they get stuck on the gas pedal. So they get stuck on the gas pedal because they have enough torsion going on in their spine, just due to how they were growing in utero, but also when they were birthed. And we have to unwind that for the simple reason that if you're stuck on the gas pedal, you cannot digest, you cannot rest, you cannot do any of the things. And then that's what leads to, like Dr. Paul said, latch issues and colic and all those kinds of things. However, no matter what, they should be getting adjusted, whether there are symptoms or not, they should be getting checked. This babe, she's been with me since day 2 of her life. She was in earlier today as well, and she's 3 months now, and she's so cute because now she's like, all of her arches in her spine are starting to develop. She's doing a lot of tummy time, but she's doing this. She's looking at her mom. She's belly to belly. So moms are on their back. Baby is right here, belly to belly. So she's looking at her mom, and then she's looking at me like this, waiting for mom's response. And then, so she did this like 6 times. And then I'm like, let me switch sides. And as she did this 6 times and looked back at her mom, she was waiting for her mom to give proper response that I'm a safe person, right? And she's been under care. She's an infant. And so I'm like, every time she did it, I was like, that's incredible cervical range of motion. Oh, that's incredible cervical range of motion. She would laugh and laugh. It's really, really fun. So I've had just a morning of kids, so it's been great.
Yeah, the feedback from them. And I think, when you say, doctors don't have to, they choose to, because they rush that mom. They're on their timeline. And so they're rushing mom. Now, mom could be dilated to a 10, but if you are working with a midwife, and I suppose we can pull pregnancy in on this too, but if you are working with a midwife, that midwife is there to actually massage the tissues around your vaginal opening so that those tissues can stretch properly. So it's really incredible. Is it preparing mom's body, or doctors will often, they're just like, we're just going to cut the tissues. We're just going to cut it. And they love doing episiotomies because that's easier than waiting for the mother's body to actually open up on her own time, or assisting that. And so, if that opening isn't what the doctor thinks it should be, they're going to take those levels of interventions, which is like tragic. Like, birth is natural. Like, let's let birth be birth, and not bastardize it from, the medical society.
Well, I always tell the moms that I work with, and there's a number of moms in all stages of pregnancy at any given time over the last 21 years. And I just tell them, I'm like, we used to squat behind sheds with friends.
Yeah.
And so we're designed for that. And I know it's so hard to, when we're talking about children and like not go right to pregnancy too. It's like, where does this conversation start and end? But I wanted to kind of bring it back to the kids. And we were talking about like ear infections and all of those things, but without symptoms, with zero symptoms whatsoever. A child falls 3,000 times by the age of 2 years old. And so that alone, when you watch them, and of course, they're also going to look for mom's reflection when they fall and see what mom did about that, says about that, thinks about that. And mom's going to just smile, even though they just did a scorpion. You know what I mean? Like, it's how, like, babies fall in all different kinds of ways. And they look to mom, and you just keep going, as long as mom's smiling. And if you make a big deal, babe makes a big deal, and then you've got yourself, a different kind of a mess. But 3,000 times by the age of 2 on a developing spine with multiple growth plates on each one of the bones has 5. Is it 5 or 6? I think it's 5 growth plates on each one of the vertebra. And that's a lot. And then the other part is diapering, like this major flexion, like toes to the head diapering. There's a lot of different ways that the spine is interfered with. And so, I usually see infants once a week for 4 weeks. And then I go down to every other week for about another 8 weeks. So 2 months. And then once a month after that is how I work with it. And there's a lot of them. It's really fun. And then people watch. I have open adjusting. So they'll be walking by and they're like, oh my gosh, babies get adjusted. And that opens up the conversation there too. So, yeah.
Well, and I always tell my patients, when they say, well, why should I bring my kid in? And that whole process of, they fall 3,000 times within 2 years. And I'll say to them, imagine if you followed that baby around and mimicked its every, or let's say toddler, mimicked its every move. Every time it falls back on its bum, every time it falls forward, every time it just squats down to the ground. Tell me how you think your body would respond to that. And they're like, oh, geez, no, that doesn't seem good at all. So when they start to relate all of those movements and the falls and the bumping of the head and the running into things, that's what kids do. And thankfully, they're rubbery enough. But that doesn't mean that their spine, if the spine gets knocked out of alignment and it stays there, then we get scar tissue. Then we get, and Dr. Eric and I see this, I take x-rays on young kids if I feel like there's an issue. And I had, it was probably my first scoliosis case. She was 6 years old. Her mom brought her into me. She was having hip pain. And I'm like, that's not normal. So normal to have the adult come to you for hip pain, not normal to have the kid come to you for hip pain. Again, kids are going to come for very different, the picture is going to look very different. And so I said, let's take an x-ray. And she was 6 at the time. And because also on her posture exam, her hips were a little off. I couldn't quite tell what was going on. And I really wanted to see and not guess. So I took the x-ray on her, and she had a double scoliosis, which is a sideways curve. And one of her hips was a 1/2 inch shorter than the other. She was 6. Now, when we talk about dysregulation of the nervous system, this is dysregulation and nerve interference to how the body's growing. So as chiropractors, we're going to put them through a course of care.
Mhm.
And scoliosis is typically in 6-month increments. And in the medical world, she could have gone to the medical doctor, and the medical doctor would say, well, we're not going to do anything. Come back in 6 months, and we're going to take an x-ray every 6 months until we think that it's gone, or make sure it doesn't get worse. It's called watchful neglect. They don't do anything because they have nothing for it. But as chiropractors, when we start to remove those blockages and allow the brain and the body to communicate better, now we release that mismessaging to the growth system of the body. And I retook that x-ray in 6 months, and her mother was just tears streaming down her face because the curves were gone and her hips had leveled out. It is so powerful when you just remove interference and allow these kids the ability, their bodies just to grow the way they're supposed to without interference. It's amazing.
Yeah, I was thinking about too, I was at a basketball game on Tuesday night. So my niece is playing, she's 15 and she's playing varsity basketball, and they're doing really well. And they're actually going to play a team tomorrow and get crushed. But because this team just crushes everybody, they've been stacking this team for like 26 years. And anyway, so I'll go see that one too. But there's a lot of them are getting sick. And I'd like to talk at some point, maybe down the road, the actual pathway of how an adjustment increases the immune system, because these kids, my nieces and nephews, have been adjusted since they were born. I was at their births, and they were checked on the way out. But they also, when they were younger, now they're teenagers, but when they were younger, their mom would bring them in, or dad would bring them in once a week, their whole life. And now their schedules don't allow necessarily to match up to be able to get in here once a week. But I was thinking about her because it was challenging for her to play because she's like got that cough in the crud and all that. And I'm like, I just know if all parents with athletes, and this is literally, I'm going to say this across the board and I mean it and I'll stand by it. If people were adjusted once a week all the way through all of this, especially the winter sports season, they would be so much better off. I know she would be really well. Everybody on the team would be really well, but someone gets it and then they just start passing it around. So even if you catch something, your body is weak enough that it succumbs to something, it's just going to get you through it faster. Your body can react faster. Like the very first, I have one of the guys I used to date, he's a chiropractor, and he was raised by 2 chiropractors. And if anybody got sick in their whole family, there were 5 adopted children, and a couple of the other ones were chiropractors too. But when they were young, they would get a toggle, an enema, and go right to bed.
Oh my gosh.
It solved them every single time. So a toggle is an atlas adjustment, or an adjustment at the upper cervical, an enema to clear the to detox the body, and they go right to bed. And nobody was ever sick ever in their household except for like maybe a few hours. Toggled, enema, and go to bed.
That's amazing.
I know. It is awesome. I like that recipe. If I had children, fortunately, God didn't give me children for a lot of reasons, and unfortunately didn't give me children for a lot of reasons, but that would be my recipe.
Well, and think about that. The only thing that's being removed is the interference to the immune system. So why not? I mean, it makes sense. And, I think I was telling you, I had somebody reach out to me on Facebook about my cold, and she told me to go test to see if it's COVID and then take some drug. But then I said, I'm not doing any of that. And then she said, well, actually, my boyfriend, I got sick at the same time. I took the drug and I'm still sick, and he got over it within a couple of days. And I'm like, yeah, you're putting more interference into a system that has interference. And our kids, we're doing things like, we give them Pedialyte, which you guys, when I was growing up, it was equal parts of honey, whiskey, and lemon. And that still stands. That's what I gave my daughter when she got sick. Yeah, it's like you give your kid a toddy. And also if you're like, you give your kid alcohol, there is alcohol in those stupid cough syrups, but there's also artificial sweeteners, flavors, colors. There's flame retardants in there. There's nothing about anything over the counter medicine or prescription that isn't going to put more interference into that body. So we've got to remove the interference so the body stays as well and is healthy and adapts. It doesn't mean we're not going to get sick. I'm 3 weeks on a cold. I know Dr. Erica had one too, but we're also February in Michigan. We're sunshine girls. We've not been outside. We've not been, well, you got to go to Florida, but I did not. But
yeah, well, it was 20 degrees when I was down there. So
that's right. It was cold. Yeah.
No, we are there. I mean, it's the vitamin D. It's all the things, right? And also when a child does end up with symptoms, and when we end up with symptoms, to suppress the symptom, like Dr. Paula said, it's putting assault into the body and suppressing the symptom, but the symptom is only there because the body's overwhelmed and wants to get this out this way and that way and this way and blah, blah, blah. And we have to allow it to do that, all the while boosting. And I would only imagine what Dr. Paula, mine was a few weeks ago. I'm finally all the way through it, but my countertop is filled with all the things that I already do, but also more things that I'm doing like every 2 hours and this and that. And if we started to treat the body that way, I was at that basketball game on Tuesday. There was a 3-year-old there that is my cousin's son. So I don't know what that turns out to be. My cousin, I don't know. It's my second cousin 3 times removed, whatever it is. Anyway, he was super snotty and all the things, eating a red Tootsie Pop. And I'm like, and I get it. Like, you're trying to keep a child quiet, but also it's like this, like, that's the worst thing that you could do. I mean, if you need to eventually get nutrition into a body that is not taking in nutrition as a child, and you need to add in like a protein shake or something like that, it's so different. But just adding a salt to an already annihilated body is like, you guys, we have to stop doing that. Like, we all have to, every single one of us at every single age. And we all have to get adjusted, boost the information superhighway. So remember, we talked about this years ago, months ago, or maybe even over a year. When we think about the circulation system, that's the blood, arteries, veins, blah, blah, blah. We think about the respiratory system, that's the lungs, blah, all the things. Bones, we know those. Muscles, we know those. When we talk about the immune system, it is a beautifully orchestrated system of multiple glands and multiple tissues and multiple all the things, controlled and coordinated by your nervous system alone. And so if we're not doing that to make sure that our immune system is doing what it needs to do, it takes in things, takes in info, I got to something, I got to respond, I got to something, I got to respond. That I got to respond is the nervous system, our superhighway. Take care of it.
Yeah, there's a book that I discovered, I think, when my daughter was little, and it's called How to Raise a Healthy Child in Spite of Your Doctor. And that was Dr. Mendelsohn. And it's a great book. It was written by a medical doctor. And, that's when really I first learned about fevers. And he's like, yeah, you don't need to give your kid Tylenol at 101 fever, 102 even. Like high fevers are normal for babies and kids, and that we just need to support the body in certain ways. And he goes through in there. He's like, when is it an emergency? When should you take your child? But not just, and I feel badly for like new parents. Of course, I was a new parent, but I was also in the field that I was in. And I wasn't about to shuttle my kid to the doctor every time she got a sniffle. And in fact, I think I only ever took her to the pediatrician like twice when she was sick. And once she did have a fever of like 104, and I did opt for an injection of like something to lower the fever. But that was after like 3 days. So, there's definitely, and it's okay. I think if you're like, I don't know what this is. And this is where having a medical doctor or your chiropractor, but if you're like, I really want to go to my pediatrician, that pediatrician needs to be on your team. They need to be working with you so that you can go and you can say, just tell me what this is. Should I be concerned about this? And I think that's what a lot of young parents, young moms need. Like, they just need somebody to say, it's fine. Like, this is how it's going to happen. This is what happened. This is what's happening in the body and the immune system, and allowing the body. Here's the way you support it properly. There's so many ways that we can support being sick. And your medical doctor, if you're choosing to go to a pediatrician instead of a chiropractor, that person should be able to have that conversation with you. They should not, their first thing shouldn't be, we're going to give him or her an antibiotic. And that, I love this one. We're going to take a culture, start the antibiotic anyway, and we'll call you in 48 hours and let you know what it is. And then in 48 hours, they call you and they go, oh, you can stop the antibiotics. It wasn't a blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, well, you've already assaulted the immune system. Like, just wait until you get the test back. Like, stop.
Yeah. I was thinking of, oh my gosh, you guys, the stories could go on and on and on, and we would be here literally for 2 days for sure. But I wanted to kind of take this and sort of sidecar it as far as the immune system goes. And I want to talk about milestones for babies and children. And so I had this baby, and mom was in during her pregnancy. She was in once a week, gave a beautiful delivery. Dad, it was awesome because dad works for, I think he's a cop. He got like the first 3 months of that baby's life off of work so that he could tend and she could tend. And it's just this beautiful baby. And then mom's been coming once every 3 weeks, as I suggest to moms and to adults, stay ahead of it. Stay ahead of life. But anyway, so she said, I think her daughter was with her. So the daughter she just turned 1 in January, but she wasn't crawling properly. She wasn't a balanced crawler. She was crawling on her left knee would be bent, but her right leg would be coming like up and around and standing on her foot. And so that one knee and one foot, and that she's screaming fast, like so super fast. And so after 2 adjustments, so I said, let's get her back in, get her under care. I want her to stay under care anyway. She shouldn't have taken the break, but that's what parents do. And I allow them to do what you need to do and come back. This is a safe place. So 2 adjustments later, she's not deciding she's not going to crawl. She's a very, very active, very fast child, but she's now bear crawling. So she's on both feet and both hands. So I'm happier with that. After 3 adjustments, she's walking now. Like, yesterday I walked into the room and she's literally like taken off leaps and bounds. So she wasn't going to get the walking pattern by doing this 1 foot down and 1 knee down. But once we got her more balanced with how her body was moving and her nervous system connection, I walk in and that child was walking yesterday. And I'm like, it gives me goosebumps. But I've also had 5-year-olds that are not losing teeth. They're not doing what they're supposed to do. They start getting adjusted. Teeth come flying out of their mouths in the normal, because now they got to catch, their body's like, oh, we got to catch up with what we're behind with. Teeth start falling out. I've had children come in with like, this arm is moving like this and this one's going, and they're only noticing it in 5-year-old softball or t-ball. And now 1 adjustment and both arms are moving and they're running up and down the halls. Like, this is what we're seeing every single day. I just wanted to kind of spin from the immune system to actual functional, structural things that we see and we forget that we're seeing, because it's just, we help them be normal. We help normalize them, their expression and their movement through the world. And it's amazing. absolutely amazing.
Yeah. It is mind-blowing when we can see that. And even just from excuse me, just from a sleep issue, and you were
Oh,
talking about earlier, standing behind that baby and having the baby looking back at you, because we do need to make sure that's how we check, is we get the baby to look at us.
mhm.
We can't say turn to the right and turn to the left, so we have to be very strategic about how we do this. And how many pictures have you gotten, probably as I have, is that after I adjust a baby who's not been able to move their head to one side, and then I get the picture of the baby sleeping conked out with their head to that side that they couldn't move to, and sleeping because they were unable to sleep because of the discomfort of that. So I mean, it's so powerful. And when baby's resting, baby's growing, and their body's doing all of those things, and the brain is developing, and mom gets some rest. So
Yes, I
that's huge.
know. That's so
But
true.
before we sign off, we got to talk about what the adjustments look like. I want to make sure that
Oh,
people
yeah.
understand.
No, that's
Yeah.
awesome. So depends on the age, right? So infant adjusting, as we're talking about it, if you were to take your finger and push it into your eyeball, as soon as you start to feel pressure, that is the pressure that we use for an adjustment. I also talk about it as pushing into like a really ripe tomato. So there's not all of these movements. I do a ton of cranial work with the infants in particular, but it really more looks like massage. And honestly, there's a lot that I'm doing, but then there's a lot of home care stuff that I give to the parents, because I want you helping them dance it out. I want you helping them get their spine moving like a snake. I want you to help them, with their digestive system. I want you to be breathing into into their heads. I want you to be doing some of that stuff. So it's very gentle and looks more like a massage than anything. Is that what you would say as well?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. It almost, if somebody was looking at you, they'd be like, are you even doing anything? And
Yes.
again, that's what we want to make sure, that we're dispelling that myth, that when you see somebody get an adjustment on social media, and you see that it looks very, I'll just use the word, violent or
Right.
intense, that is not what we're doing to kids. And even just thinking about it, is that I have some women who are so, like, I have to really power in there. And then I have men who I barely have to
Mhm.
deliver a thrust.
Yeah.
So it is so variable for every single human body. But then as we translate it down to babies, it does become just it's very nuanced. And chiropractors are so in tune energetically. And so I feel like we end up doing more energy work than anything. Like, we're able to feel like the pulses, we're able to feel the tensions. We're really just getting in tune with that baby's nervous system. And I almost feel like we're like talking to their nervous system through our
Yeah.
hands, which is really so beautiful.
I also do a ton of internal oral work. So I glove up and I go and work with the palate, with the oral tissues. I do a ton of that work. And it used to be when I first got into practice anyway, as chiropractors in the state of Michigan, we were not allowed to enter any orifice. And I was going to anyway, because nobody is doing that work. I think it's since changed. And honestly, I don't care if it has or hasn't. It's so important to make sure that their spine moves, that they're able to feed, that their digestive system is working, that their body's regulated, that they're getting off the gas pedal and being able to regulate gas and brakes, get rest. I have this one family, and then I'll stop talking, but this one family, they wanted a baby for 5 years. They wanted this baby. They worked very hard, all of the things. And they came to me during the last end stages of her pregnancy. And then they went and had this babe. And then I didn't see them for like 3 months. Well, this baby ended up not being able to eat well, not being able to relax at all, colicky, not sleeping, screaming their head off. So imagine as mom and dad wanting a babe for 5 years, this babe comes into their house and it's mayhem and chaos and colic so badly that it was like a babe like that can put so much tension on a marriage and the household. And so I gave an it gives me chills to even share, but I gave an adjustment. And the second time I saw them, they said, we wanted to bring you a bottle of wine. We never could have possibly imagined what could have happened with this child. And a real similar happened not just a couple of months ago. And the dad had to come the next visit just because he's like, I've never seen my child change so quickly. And it's amazing what can happen with good chiropractic care. And I also want to say, make sure you're going to the right chiropractor. Make sure you're going to a pediatric trained chiropractor that's been in practice for a long time, has a lot of experience, and not because of any other reason than you just want like all of the nuance that comes with time and wisdom.
Well, and you're not going to go to a sports chiropractor for your baby. So yeah. And, there's different specialties in chiropractic, and, that is one of them is pediatric and pregnancy. So, I have more of a family practice. I think you have more of a focus more on babies and pregnancy. So I see the gamut. But it's important definitely to make sure that you have somebody who knows what the heck they're doing with, with these kids and these babies. And so, and it is life-changing. So I think that was really the bottom line and why I wanted to make sure that we hit this topic. And I think it deserves coming back to, because we are in the business of changing lives. And as much as I love working with adults and seeing people get their lives back and start to feel better, and they're better in the world and in their relationships, you take that down to a baby, a young child, a teenager, and they're what you see from them is just multiplied. It's just tenfold what, just that feedback that you get from them. And you're like, yes, like I just gave this person a whole new lease on life. And then you think about their life ahead and all the years that they have ahead of them that you were able to impact in a positive way through chiropractic. So super simple. And
on the other side of the spectrum, I had this new patient yesterday. He came back today. He's 83 years old. And he's like, you have a terrible business model. He said, I feel amazing with just one adjustment. He's like, I'm like, you're coming for first year plan anyway, no matter what. But we see it more with the infants, because it's the infants and children, because they're so responsive. But it was just kind of fun. He was like, really bad business model. Like,
when you get people that fast. Yeah. Yes. I love it. I love it.
Okay.
Well, gosh, that was a great show today. Appreciate you guys signing in. Make sure that if you are here, make sure you're following us at Chiropractic is Sexy, Dr. Erica Peabody, Dr. Paula Ruffin, and It's All About the Biology. And of course, please leave a thumbs up and leave a comment. Helps everybody to see our show and help us grow. So thanks for being here, and we will see you on the next one.